Time Warner Cable's Local Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. Our guest, Jerome Horton. He is the chair of the California Board of Equalization, which has been in the line of fire over the last few weeks. It's a slightly complicated issue, but I think it's important that our viewers understand it.
Right.
And that is the question of a small business tax credit that was passed about 10 years ago that only applied to Californians.
Right.
And a court recently held you cannot do that. It violates the U.S. Constitution, and that's where the controversy begins.
Yes. The courts held that it impeded interstate commerce.
Right.
To have a law that said that only California companies can apply for a tax credit. In fact, out-of-state companies should be able to apply as well.
Privileges and immunities.
Exactly. So when they said it was unconstitutional, the Franchise Tax Board had to make a decision. How do you handle something once the court has said it's unconstitutional? And the lawyers at the Franchise Tax Board took the position that if it's unconstitutional, then it was never a law in the first place.
Exactly.
Which is typical of any law. I mean, once something is found to be unconstitutional, then it never existed.
And that means that any tax credits that were given would need to be recouped.
Right now,
now.
So the state is looking at recouping. And my concern, Brad, is that it's a little unfair for California businesses to be advised 10 years later that a law is unconstitutional.
Right.
So I don't think they ought to be held liable for the penalties or the interest associated with it. And quite frankly, if I could make it prospective, I would.
Right.
But
now, I think that's wonderful, and it's good to hear that our tax collector believes that, but you may not have a choice. I mean, the law is the law is the law. And I even wonder whether the legislature could pass a law to prevent you from collecting those back taxes if the court held it was unconstitutional.
Well, what the legislature could do is the legislature could pass a law, make it retroactive, and make the law constitutional. And that's a decision that they could make. They could do emergency legislation, pass it, tell the Franchise Tax Board it will be retroactive.
I see.
However, it will apply to everyone.
But then could an out-of-state business apply retroactively for a tax credit?
They could, as long as they're within the statute of limitations.
Right.
And so can they accelerate the statute of limitations?
It's very complicated.
It is. But it's a legislative matter from our perspective, because the Franchise Tax Board is an administrative body that is over, and we have, as you know, Brad, the judicial, the legislative, the executive body.
Of course.
Well, judicial tells the legislature what's constitutional, what's not, and then the legislature tells the executive body what to do, and that's where we are.
But the problem is that you really have a lot of folks coming after you because there's just not a clear understanding, and I'm not trying to be pedantic, but there's just not a clear understanding of the rules and laws and regulations. So how do you present the situation in a way so people understand you're trying to work through it, slow down, we'll try to fix this.
Right. Well, I think, Brad, the thing that I'm trying to do is
you're here.
It's here, and then the 2,000 companies that are affected. I'm on their side.
Right.
And the issue that is before every person in California is the constitutionality of something, the rights that they have, and whether or not they should be affected. You take something like civil rights, when it was ruled unconstitutional. Well, does that mean that everyone that was discriminated against has certain rights? Well, it does. It means that we have overturned this. This is no longer the law of the land.
It's really that simple.
It is.
Okay.
It is,
His name is Jerome Horton. He is the chair of California State Board of Equalization. My name is Brad Pomerance. I want to thank you so much for watching Time Warner Cable's Local Edition.